Okay. Next up, we're going to have the representatives. They are no longer known by their names. They are just representatives today for Lee Zeldin and Holst. And also, although Mr. Gregory's opponent did not show up, we're going to have him come up as well, because he's also for the House of Representatives. You just don't get to rebut anybody, so you just get your time to speak. And we appreciate you coming down. So Mr. King did not come down. We also have, that's for the second district. For the first district, we also have a working family in Lee Zeldin and Anna Holst called Kenneth Schaefer. There is no contact information for him whatsoever anywhere on the web, so I did not invite him, so he is not here. So again, we're going to do the same thing. Where did my timekeeper go? Terry McNamee?
Presentations, right? We won't be that long.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to ask you the questions. They're just going to give us some information. Because they're representatives, they're not going to give their opinion on the topics. So they're just going to give us some information, then we're going to let them leave, and then we're going to just grill you. All right, we're grilling you. Okay, so we're gonna, we'll let ladies first. So will the representative?
Am I the lady or is he the lady?
Oh, that's right, you know? That's right, you have to wear a skirt. We'll just go in order, so.
All right, so Congressman Lee Zeldin would be here tonight, but as you know, his district is very large, and he is currently debating his opponent. They are out east at an event that was established several weeks ago. So he sent me out to just make a few statements on his behalf, and I am certainly more than happy to and honored to be asked. So Lee Zeldin, as many of you know, was our state senator up in Albany prior to Senator Croce taking over his seat. And in his time in the New York State Senate, he worked very hard to do things for us here on Long Island, which helped tremendously with our taxes, and that was rolling back the MTA payroll tax, which was something that he fought for very hard when he got up there, as well as creating the tax cap that makes it very difficult for municipalities to try to pierce the cap. They have to go through several steps to try to do so, and sometimes a lot of public scrutiny when doing so. And after Lee's time in Albany, he then ran for the congressional seat in Washington. And in the 2 years that he has been in Washington, he has done more in those 2 years than his predecessor did in the 12 years that he was in that seat. So when Lee first got there, he wanted to create something that was all-encompassing of all of the things that we here on Long Island deal with on a daily basis: quality of life issues, jobs. So he created the New Era of American Strength agenda. And in it, he outlined all the things that he wanted to accomplish in his tenure in Congress. And so it included things like our health care, better environment, better infrastructure, better education, trade with fewer restrictions, services for our veterans, and of course services for our 9/11 responders. As many of you know, Lee is also a veteran. He was a paratrooper in the Army, and he still to this day is a major in the reserves. And so one of the things that Lee holds near and dear to his heart, and something that he very much understands, is the issues that our veterans face. And so he worked very hard to create a new veterans medical facility in Manorville, so that the folks who are being serviced by those medical facilities on the east end of his district didn't have to go all the way to Northport. In mentioning Northport also, when we saw the tragic death that occurred there at the Veterans Hospital in Northport, Lee immediately jumped on that. He called for an immediate investigation, and certainly did not let a minute go by without making sure that it was completely investigated. He also worked very hard when he was in Albany on the Joseph Dwyer PTSD program, and he has managed to take that program to help our soldiers who are suffering with PTSD, to take that program nationally. And he's also reauthorized the funding for our 9/11 survivors, the men and women in uniform who ran into those buildings to save people's lives and now are losing their own lives as a result of that. So he made sure that when he got to Washington, that bill was reauthorized. He also works tirelessly on strengthening our national security He advanced the legislation to prevent terrorists from buying guns, and he also passed the Counterterrorism and Screening Act, which, ladies, also very much helps us with the concerns that we have for our families about the Zika virus. Lee knows that living here in America and living here on Long Island, we have to do a better job at creating jobs. And so he is working in Washington now to roll back taxes, roll back over-regulations, which is choking this country, and helping to secure the Made in America label. And he continues to fight for that. Lee is also a family man. He and his wife Diana have 2 beautiful little girls. They're both in 5th grade. And Lee and his wife often worry and wonder about the environment that will be left to our children. And that's not lost on him. So Lee has worked also on environmental issues. I know very often people say, oh, Republican. No, Republicans really do worry about the environment. And so he has passed 2 proposals to save Plum Island. He also worked to secure $27 million for funding the National Estuary Program that helps to protect our waterways. And he also fought to save the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which was in danger of being depleted. And he knows that here on Long Island, in order to enjoy our beautiful waterways and our beaches, we have to take a bridge there. So he has worked to secure funding to help with our infrastructure for our bridges that head over to the water, some of them not in such great condition these days. So with that, I just wanted to let you know that Lee very much is a family man. He cares about Long Island. He works tirelessly. Everybody always says, gosh, you know, Lee is really so committed to this job, and we thank him for all his time that he spends in Washington. And I say, don't forget to thank his wife, because she's back at home raising those 2 kids while he's working so hard for all of us. And with that, Lee recognizes that being a father, that even when he was in Albany, he fought so hard against Common Core. And then when he got to Washington, he took it 1 step forward, and he made sure that his law passed to see to it that if a school district says they don't want to participate in Common Core, they are not going to lose their federal tax dollars, and students will not be penalized. So on behalf of Lee Zeldin, I just want to say thank you so very much for having me. We also have here with us Matt Scott. Matt, raise your hand. Matt is from Lee's office, and he flew up here from Washington to be with all of us tonight, so I appreciate that. Lee has, Matt has a pen, paper. He can take down any questions that you have, and you're going to put them up on the website, right?
I'm going to email you to the questions, both of you, the questions that we asked tonight. And then if they could answer us, we will put them up on our website and Facebook page, yes.
Great, because we sort of felt, Bill and I felt that to answer questions on behalf of the candidates, we wouldn't want to get any information wrong. So you're going to email those questions in.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have Bill speaking on behalf of Anna Throne. Say it right. Say it right.
Holst. Anna Holst.
Thank you.
Well, it's a privilege to be here. I know Anna would like to be here herself, but as Trish said, that they have that previous engagement to debate each other this evening at a different venue. So I think we could all agree this is probably one of the most divisive campaign years we've ever seen. At least it is in my lifetime. Some of the rhetoric and name calling and things that we've seen going on in the presidential race have turned off a lot of people and a lot of voters to even wanting to participate. So I give you all a lot of credit for being here this evening, because this is the process. This is the process that our veterans fought for, that some died for, and our forefathers had the brilliance of putting together. As one of the other candidates said earlier, it might not be a perfect system, but it is the best system that exists in the world. And for you to be here tonight, I applaud you, and especially the students, to get involved at this point in your life. It's important because decisions that are being made by other people are going to affect you more than some of us, especially as you go on to your secondary education, hopefully in college and so forth. So one of the things Anna had asked me to talk about this evening, and not to get into exact positions too much, but really to talk about the theme of what has happened to Washington. We all will agree that Congress has become very dysfunctional, and that in the last several years, we've seen Congress spend more time fighting with themselves and each other than getting things done. We can all very easily identify what the problems are, but there has always, for the last 16 years at least, there's been a lack of enthusiasm to work together, to work across the aisle amongst one party or the other to try to get those real solutions in place. And we can look at certain issues that have continued to be the same issues for year after year after year, and to really understand the problem and to look at where have we succeeded in the past, where has our country flourished. In my lifetime, I could say there was 2 decades where the country flourished and people were better off than they were in that before that 10-year decade began. And that would be in the 80s and in the 90s. And they were 2 very different times, two different types of presidents, 2 different types of Congress. But one thing they had in common was they had, in the 80s, we had President Reagan, and we had a Congress that was controlled by the Democrats and Tip O'Neill that worked together and spoke together and met together and tried to come together for the common good, which is what we send them to Washington to do. In the 90s, we had President Clinton along with Newt Gingrich within the Congress. Again, 2 different parties, but they got together. They spoke, they met, they found compromise, they found common ground where we could come up with realistic solutions to solve problems. Rather than just wave our fists in the air and say, this is what I stand for, and I'm not going to waver, and I'm not going to compromise, and I'd rather shut down the government than solve the problems that we have. That's not governing, and that's not leadership. And that's what we need to have. I know I'm not running for office this year, and I'm one of the voters. That's what I'm looking for in the candidates that I'm going to cast my vote for. I want someone who's going to go up there and is going to lead and is going to legislate. And for that reason, I'm here to speak on Anna's behalf. Anna has consistently shown an ability to work across the aisle. For 6 out of her 8 years as the Southampton town supervisor, she was in the minority party. But during that time, she worked with Republicans on the other side of the aisle, worked hand in hand with them to try to solve the problems that were in the town. And during that time, the town's bond rating was increased to AAA level. Taxes actually decreased in the town of Southampton. More people jobs were created for more people, and the town flourished. These are the types of values and the types of principles that she wants to take with her to Washington and utilize those same principles and utilize those same skill sets to not only look at it as a Democratic problem or a Republican problem or a Democratic solution or a Republican solution. These are all American problems, and we need American solutions. And we need someone in Congress who's going to be willing to work together with all parties to get those solutions together. Because to me, this is a results business. You could go to any office there is, and you could stand and fight and agree with everybody in the room and, that wants you to go up there. But at the end of the day, if you come back and the same problems exist that were there before you went, then you failed. And we've seen enough failure in the last 16 years in Congress that we need someone, and we need to start getting people there who are going to work together, work for our benefit. And that's what I'm here to speak about for Anna. If you peel back all the rhetoric and all the campaign literature that you see, do a little bit of research, look at Anna's record, look at what she's accomplished in her 8 years as Southampton Town Supervisor, I think you'll agree and you'll see that she's shown that ability to work with others. So I appreciate the time to be here to speak. It's an honor to be here for Anna, and she would be honored, or very honored, with your vote. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming. I know if you guys have someplace to go, we'll let you get out of here. Thank you again for coming down.
Good to see you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. And now we get to grill Mr. Gregory. We're going to put you right in the